You're listening to the Home Staging Show podcast. I'm your host, Cindy Lin. This is a show where we talk about all things real estate, home staging, and selling your home to live and to sell. Welcome back to season 8. This is episode 5. Hey guys, so welcome back to another episode of the Home Staging Show. I just want to give you a few quick updates on what's happening in the Stage More land. So you may have noticed that this season, the publishing schedule is a little bit off. We try to do one episode per week, but recently we've been having issues because it has to do with the post-production of the episodes. Editing is taking a little bit longer than I originally anticipated. And we also have a few guests who had to reschedule last minute because the hot season is coming up for real estate. So we have to wait for the rescheduling to record those new episodes. I'm also in the process of hiring a podcast editor for the sound, so things are shifting a bit. And I know that was one of the big criticisms from last season, where basically there were no edits at all because I was in graduate school for full time. So that's why there are a few different changes happening behind the scene, and I'm working on my best to improve the podcast. So bear with me while we try to figure everything out. And tomorrow, February 28th, is also our 13th anniversary. So to celebrate, I'll be doing a huge giveaway that is valued for almost at $1,600. I'm giving away the Launcher course, the 6-figure floor plan self-study course, the paperback version of the Marketing in the Home Staging Industry book, also my 5 essentials in my home staging toolkit, including a handheld steamer and a power drill, and a whole bunch of other goodies. So make sure you go to the blog and check out all the details. And today I have Kate from Simple Plan Media with us talking about leveraging Pinterest for our businesses. And I know for our first 5 episodes of this season, we really focus on building a home staging business. For the next few episodes, we're going to shift the focus for a bit and focusing on the upcoming sales season. As you're probably starting to experience, the market is getting busier and busier. So Kate All is the founder and owner of Simple Pin Media, a Pinterest management company helping business increase their reach on Pinterest. She also hosts the weekly Simple Pin podcast, teaching you how to DIY your Pinterest marketing. I really enjoy interviewing Kate, who's also a fellow podcaster. She has a great radio voice, and she has really great way to break down Pinterest marketing and strategies with a lot of actionable steps. And I think Pinterest is a marketing tool that has really been underutilized for the real estate people. A lot of people really focus on the Instagram and Facebook aspect, but I think stagers and real estate agents especially can actually benefit from marketing on Pinterest. So, hey Kate, thank you so much for coming on the show. Before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what type of work do you do?
Yeah, I run a company called Simple Pin Media, and we're a Pinterest management company. And so what we do is we really help our clients by taking the Pinterest marketing piece totally off their plate so they can really focus back on their business, whether it's creating content or selling services or even physical products. And then I also have a teaching side of my business, which is the Simple Pin podcast. So I help people who are not quite ready to hire us, but they really want to DIY their Pinterest marketing. And I really try to break it down into simple, actionable steps because we all know in business we can be super overwhelmed with information. And I want to be one less person that's just throwing a bunch of stuff at people. So that's what I do.
That's great. And what is Pinterest exactly and how does it work?
So Pinterest is, a lot of people would call it a social media platform, but we actually refer to it as a search and discovery platform. So it's a place where people go to save their ideas. The best way to understand it is that before we had social media, before we even had computers, we would take images out of magazines or whatever it was, and we would put them into binders. And sometimes we would categorize them. Maybe let's say you're decorating a house. You would put them into kitchen, you would put them into bathroom. Pinterest is like a virtual binder. It's a place where you can save your ideas to particular boards so you can revisit them later. You're not utilizing, the bookmark tab on your computer anymore, but you're really actually categorizing your ideas so you can buy products, do activities, or even dream into your future plans.
That's great. I love the way you put it, actually. It's so easy to understand. And I find that it's also a search engine because it's a great way to find inspirations for home
Yes.
design, or actually recipes, like anything basically. So I think it's
Yeah.
really great. Yeah, I think it's really great for visual professionals, like us, people who work in people's homes, that's especially.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely.
And why is Pinterest so important in today's marketplace?
I think one of the things that Pinterest provides for marketers, particularly, is that they provide a way to connect the pinner, the dreamer, the doer, the person who's going to take action with their products or services. So it's basically that you're solving a problem for the pinner. So let's say I'm trying to design the ideal bathroom and I have a style that I like, or I want to purchase lamps, or I want to look for anything that's going to add to the style of my home. You, as a marketer or somebody who can help with either the services or the product piece, you putting your content on Pinterest helps match you up with the person who is already ready to purchase. Whereas when we like operate on Facebook, that's really very timely. It's what you're doing in the moment. And even on Google, people can search, but there's no image component to it. So Pinterest is very heavily image based. And so I'm hooked in by, oh, is this going to connect with this visual I have in my head? So it's a really important place to really connect with your future customer.
And what are some of the trends you're seeing today?
Oh, there's so many. So I would say the trend we see is very much it goes along the line with our yearly calendar. So right now, what we have is pinners are really searching for healthy eating, healthy living, organization, Valentine's Day, since that's coming up in just a couple of days. And then they're even looking a little bit broader into spring break, taking spring vacation, spring fashion, spring decor. They tend to plan about 45 days in advance. That's what their search habits are, or even longer, actually. If I'm going to plan a renovation on my house, like I'm planning a renovation on my kitchen, already I'm pinning to my kitchen board all the things that I love so that when I finally meet with my contractor or designer, I can share with them my Pinterest board and we can dream into all these ideas and products that I want to make my idea come to life.
Okay, so since you're remodeling your kitchen, I feel like you're the best person to answer this. So,
Okay.
because I think a lot of times for professionals, it's a little bit a guessing game of figuring out what the client is doing. What are they doing to search for us, and how do they find us? So, when
Mm.
you're searching on Pinterest board, for example, for your kitchen remodel, what exactly are the keywords you're using to search?
Yeah. Well, one of the things right off the bat is the searches of pinners and even my searches are not branded. So I'm not brand loyal when I'm doing a search. I am design loyal. So for me, I'm searching backsplash. What's the best backsplash for kitchen? I am searching ranges because I want to get a new kitchen range. I'm also looking at creative cabinet ideas. We have this really frustrating corner cabinets that feel like it's a waste of space. So I'm searching creative uses or efficient uses for kitchen cabinets. I'm looking at colors of kitchen cabinets. I might be searching, what does a navy kitchen cabinet look like? Do I want to go with that, or do I want to go with white? What is it that I want to start creating with all of these different ideas? And how can any particular brand at that point help my idea come to life? So I'm never searching Home Depot, or I'm never searching um, appliance manufacturers. I'm only looking for what it is I love. And when I connect with that and I hit with it, I save it. And we also did a renovation last year, and all of the contractors we worked with, they're like, we love Pinterest because one, the ideas usually cost more money. And number two, it gives us a way to see visually what the client is looking for instead of just a verbal description.
Yes, I think that is the most valuable thing from a design professional standpoint, because I've worked with clients on projects and they're like, oh, I want this and that, but they're very vague about it. But if I
Mhm.
have a Pinterest board that they can pick and choose, then we're on exactly the same page of what they're looking for.
Yes.
Especially a lot of times people are like, oh, I want it modern, but they don't really mean modern. They might want something like Joanna Gaines that's like
Yeah, like
farmhouse.
Modern Farmhouse. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's why like the language sometimes it still creates miscommunication, but when you see it all visually, it's just so clear.
Yes.
And when it comes to marketing on Pinterest, I think one of the main issues for small business owners is that it feels like running an extra business. It takes a lot of time to build a presence. And I think a lot of business owners, like myself too, like I'm not sure if this is the right strategy for me. I'm spending a lot of time to build up my Pinterest presence, but is it really translating into dollars? And most of the
Mm,
people are, small businesses, they're just like one woman and one man shop. So how can
yeah.
we leverage this platform to really market our business and drive
Mhm.
more sales?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think one of the interesting things that we've seen with a lot of our other small business owners is that you really have to think critically about where you're going to spend your time. There's a lot of talk in our industry about all the different platforms, and you can get caught up in there's a marketing piece to your business, and then there's obviously the serving the people in your business. So, what I always tell people is allot a certain amount of time to marketing and then drill down from there. Where do you think your people are? So, a lot of people hear, oh, Facebook is great for marketing, but their people aren't necessarily interacting over there, or the same with Instagram. What I look at when it comes to Pinterest and why I do think it's really important, and I also think Pinterest can be done in as little as an hour a week. I don't think it has to be all consuming. So let me break that down a little bit. Number one, I think Pinterest is really important simply because if you're thinking about how many people are making decisions to design their homes or to create the home they love, that's where they go first. There's really no other platform that you can really save all your ideas and really curate this dream, if you will. There's Instagram, but it's different over there because it's so much in the moment, right? The other thing to know is that Pinterest is, we often refer to it as a slow burn. The fire has to be tended over time, and that involves investment of probably 6 to 9 months in even over a year before you really see massive growth. Some people, they can definitely grow out of the gate, especially if your product or your idea is super unique, because pinners love this, oh my gosh, I never thought of that type of ideas. And so if you definitely have that, you might grow a little bit quicker. However, you want to invest in it because what happens on Pinterest is what we call long tail marketing. So you put something on Instagram, a few people see it maybe in the first couple of hours, and then it's dead. When it comes to Pinterest, what you pin today can be seen in 2 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, depending on what people are searching. So that in itself, you might not see a whole lot of activity for 6 months. And then in 6 months, somebody pins one of your pins and it ends up driving an insane amount of traffic. We call those viral pins. The great part is that those aren't held to a very strict time schedule. They could be anytime. In fact, one of the pins that drives traffic to my site is actually 3 years old, and it continues to bring people to my site day over day, month over month, and it continues to build my community. So that being said, um, I think we can talk about the basics of Pinterest and the three main things that everybody needs to do. But once you get to that point and you're really doing those foundational elements, there's not a whole lot extra to it. It's not really Instagram is very, what are the hashtags you're using all the time? Or what are the hashtags you're not using? It feels more gamey, for a lack of a better term. Whereas Pinterest is very straightforward. It's very cut and dry. If you're doing the foundational things, you're doing it right.
That's a really good point. I do feel Instagram is a bit gamey because you're always like, what hashtag should I use to
Yeah.
get the result I want? I mean, there was a fluke where I posted this exterior of the house, and it got 2,000 likes. I feel like I won the algorithm lottery. Like, I don't know what happened.
Right.
And I couldn't replicate it ever since. And
Mm,
with Pinterest, it seems like if you're just consistently pinning, then
hmm.
you will get traffic.
Yes, that is key. Is and Pinterest has said that themselves. We want creators, which is business owner marketing their stuff on there. We want them to be consistent by sharing their content on the platform, because the other thing too is that Pinterest needs creators' content or products or services to make their ecosystem work. Instagram doesn't really. They need your picture. That's it. A lot of people do not click off of Instagram to go to your website or to find out more about you. It takes a lot of work to move the Instagram person out of their ecosystem. Whereas Pinterest, the pinner is trained to move off of the ecosystem to get the idea they want.
You mentioned that there are fundamental things that people need to be doing. So what are some of these fundamental things that people should do on Pinterest?
So, one of the first ones is your images need to be vertical, and that's a 2 to 3 ratio. So, if we're looking at sizes 600 by 900, it's the only platform that takes the vertical. The other ones take squares or rectangles, but Pinterest has said we want you to have the longer images. So, that's number one. On top of those images, the text gives context. So if you put text overlay using a program like Canva or PicMonkey or even Photoshop, if you know how to use it, you can give context to maybe a room that you're showcasing. Maybe it's like 10 ways to update your kitchen or 10 of the best kitchen appliances for the kitchen. This encourages me as a person who's looking at redoing their kitchen to click over to your website. So it's this billboard advertising type of thing that hooks the pinner in on the image. So images are what makes Pinterest go round. So don't pin anything that's a square pin or you can't see it very well because pinners have that instant engagement with an image. That's really what drives their curiosity to click. So that would be number one. Number two is, and I probably should have put this actually as number one. So let's back up a little bit into your profile. Your profile on Pinterest, your page, should be all about your business. I should be able to hop onto your profile and know instantly what you're about. So for me, I have a page that's Simple Pin Media, Pinterest Marketing. And then my boards that I have curated for my audience are all around Pinterest tips or Pinterest marketing strategies, social media strategies. It very much tells the story of who I am as a business owner. So I went out of order. So number one is you definitely want to have your business profile set up and fully curated to where it just speaks to who you are as a business owner. So then the next is the images. And then third is keywords that you're using in your pin description. So there's two ways that a Pinterest users operate on the platform. Number one is they browse. They search through their main home feed, they kill time, and they're just looking for things to stand out to them. So this is why your images in those browse feed really pop. The other is search. So if I'm searching for navy kitchen cabinets, in the pin description of the pin, when you upload a pin, you can add a description, 1 to 2 full sentences. You don't want to keyword stuff like navy kitchen cabinets. You don't want to do that. But you might write something like this inviting kitchen remodel incorporated navy kitchen cabinets to create whatever type of effect. So then Pinterest reads this, and then because I've searched navy kitchen cabinets, it's going to serve me up that content in my search because it recognizes a keyword. So that component of writing the correct pin description is very important, especially if you know people are searching for a particular type of product or type of service that you provide.
Well, then what kind of stuff should we be pinning as business owners?
Yes. Okay. So give me a really good example of a business owner in your audience.
Me, right, well, let's just use home stager, for example. So as a
Okay.
home stager, for our Stage for More Pinterest boards, we have boards specifically for specific rooms, like living room, dining room, etc., etc. So for
Perfect.
example, I'm focusing on pinning on interior photos. Every time we publish a blog post, I also pin the photos in our blog post. But are there any specific other things I should be pinning, or am I doing this wrong? I've gotten a suggestion from a Pinterest consultant. She's like, oh, you should create a board for recipes. People love that. Well, but that doesn't serve my audience. My
Right.
audience focus on interiors. To make the perfect breakfast bowl is not really what they're looking for in my business.
Correct. So you brought up a really good point. So a long time ago, Pinterest used to have a different type of feed before they changed their algorithm. And that was a common practice in that time to create more boards around the lifestyle, because when you would click on a pin, what would be served up to the right would be that pinner's board. So it was an opportunity to capture more traffic by them seeing what else they could see inside that board. Now, the current landscape is not like that. So we're really targeting only the people and creating only boards for our content. So for you, I'd never create a recipe board because you're right. You're not going to do recipes at all. You are on the right path with doing living rooms, bathrooms, creating all the rooms and how you would stage them and showing examples of your work or offering tips for the person who's trying to stage their home, or even really hitting on that pain point of what are your customers' greatest struggles. Write a quick blog post about it, and then make sure you have links in that blog post that go to your services or products you can buy. So I would say always, always stick with creating only the boards that you are going to be able to pin your content to. And then that way you can, let's say somebody comes to you and they're like, I don't know how to stage my living room. And you could say, I have a whole Pinterest board full of ideas. Here's the link. Go over there. You can even comment or let me know what you love. And then we can start to build a plan off of that. So it not only becomes a way that you can target Pinterest users on the platform, but you can really use it as a tool to help your customers really define their style. Like we talked about earlier, you really get rid of this whole communication barrier by now being able to see all of these visuals.
And I totally agree because I was looking to get headshots for me and my team. We had this photographer in the Bay Area. Her business is really great. I mean, it's called Portrait to the People. And their Pinterest board does exactly that because people always ask, what kind of stuff should I wear? So they have a mood board just for what type of clothes you should wear if you are a man and or if you're a woman. And what colors and stuff like that. And then people are like, well, I don't know how to post. So she's like, well, I have a board just for that. So she pinned her own work and then also some inspiration and also locations, for example. So I thought that was like a really well done.
Yes.
It becomes a tool also to help their clients to figure out if this is right for them. Because when I look at that, I was like, sold. It clearly you guys know what you're doing. And this looks great. I love the portraits, and I love that you have this tool for your clients, just so clear, because a lot of times you're just like, don't wear this, this, and that. And then, but you're like, what kind of shirt should I wear? What kind of, outfit should I put together, and what backdrop are there available? So I think it was just a very clear communication.
And then you see it too as like a menu. Like when we see things and we see images, it helps give us ideas that help create our own particular style, right? So even if you had all these images of how people and what the clothes they wore, you could take 10 different images and go, oh, now I know what I want to wear because I've meshed together all of this in front of me. So yeah, that's genius how they're using it. Very, very, very smart.
Yeah, it's very smart. And at the same time, they showcase their own work as well. So I thought that was like a really effective marketing strategy. And I think that was also a really good example how Pinterest can work for local business. Like we have online school now, for stagers. And one of the obstacles I see with students is Pinterest is more for an online business or for an e-commerce store trying to sell clothes. So they feel that it's not necessary for localized business where they want to work locally. So what are some of the strategies a local business can do to use Pinterest as part of their marketing?
Right. Well, I think number one, your photography example was absolutely perfect because they're a local business. She's probably not traveling internationally or even nationally to take other people's pictures, but she's serving that particular area. And this is also the same for people in the wedding industry or like even your industry as well, is really use it as a tool to help your clients make good decisions that also showcase your content. So, weddings, I'll use weddings as an example because they're super hyper local for most of them. You always want to have a board dedicated to your location. So you might say something like wedding venues in Portland, Oregon. Well, you then get to pin the venues, which might not necessarily be your pins, but you also get to showcase your photography or whatever products you use when it comes to marketing to these brides or grooms or whatever. Like you get to showcase that in that particular board and then integrate the location that you're in into other board names like home staging in Portland, Oregon, or real estate staging ideas or whatever it is. Make sure you use that even in your pin description as well. And know that An online marketer has the ability to reach very wide, right? Because we're online. So the traffic might be greater, but that doesn't mean the leads are greater. And I think that's an important thing to understand is that I've seen people who have so many certain number of leads, and because of their website design or their email strategy, they convert all these people really, really well. So yes, there's an element where you want to be super smart with your Pinterest traffic, but you also want to capture those leads once they come to your site and convert them. So what does that look like for each individual business? And how do we continue to, let's say you get 100 leads as a local business, but I get 1,000 as an online business. I might only get 5 that convert, but you might get 20. Your conversion rate is way greater than mine, even though I got more leads.
Having the localized board is very important. I also feel that a lot of realtors, for example, a lot of them have a blog that's dedicated to the neighborhood they're selling. And I think
Yeah.
stagers can probably do the same thing. Using myself as an example, thinking back that because we stage a very specific type of architecture. So we could just have a board that's designated to that neighborhood. And so when people are searching for ideas online with a keyword search, that's going to pop up.
Yes, definitely. Definitely keep that location in wherever you can.
So what other suggestions you may have to use Pinterest to our advantage to market ourselves?
I would say, man, there's been so many good ones already. But I would say the other thing is if you are using another social platform, let's say Instagram is already really working for you, try to cross promote and get those Instagram users to hop over to Pinterest to share some of your content or to even just follow you. So I really like to tell people that if they're going to start exploring Pinterest because they've mastered another social platform, to try to kind of cross pollinate. And you can do the same with your email list. So if you have an email list, remind them or tell them to follow you on Pinterest. Putting that in front of them, we sometimes feel like, well, that's annoying. I don't want to say like, follow me on Pinterest. But honestly, if you don't remind your audience, they'll never know. Also having on your website, it's really easy to pin something for later. So having social share buttons on the blog portion of your site so that if I am coming across your particular website or service, even if it's via Google, Facebook, or Instagram, but I have Pinterest and that's where I'm sharing all my ideas, I have the vehicle to save it to my board for later. So those are really, really important, very simple things to allow your audience the ease to share your content, which increases your reach.
What are some of the common mistakes that you see that people make on Pinterest?
One would be giving up too soon. I hear from a lot of people who feel very frustrated with the platform because it doesn't make sense to them, or no one's ever told them that it is a search and discovery platform. They end up throwing in the towel after a month or two because they feel just so frustrated by the slow growth. So I would say, number one, just gear up with your mindset and know you're going to be investing for at least 6 to 9 months very actively, daily pinning. That would be probably like the number one thing that I see is people they're done, they give up. Number two would be that they're not using a scheduling service. So Pinterest does offer approved marketing partners that can schedule your pins for you. And all you do is you go in there and you decide which pins you'd like to have them schedule out. And then you decide the boards that you want them to go to. And then throughout the week, your daily pinning instead of having to be on your phone or on your computer pinning. This mistake is really, really exhausting to people. And so what you can do is on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever day of the week you want to do it, you can schedule out your pins so that you're not a slave to Pinterest, which can also create future burnout. So those would be probably like the 2 mistakes. And then number 3 mistake would be misinterpreting the data. On Pinterest, you can see right under your name, your monthly views. And this number is a combination of impressions, saves, profile visits, clicks within the last 30 days. It kind of rotates. So a lot of people misinterpret the word views for clicks. It's just simply people saw your content, saw your profile, or they interacted with it. You want to really utilize Google Analytics for what's actually happening and how many clicks you're actually getting to your site. So that is really one of the last mistakes we see is just not looking into the Google Analytics to see where are the Pinterest users coming to my site, because that's essentially where the party is happening from Pinterest. So you want to make sure you greet them.
So I understand the advantage of automation when it comes to pinning, but my question for you is, when do we pin?
So a lot of the scheduling apps will just automatically figure out the best time to pin for you based on the activity of your Pinterest account. They're usually linked up so they can get all the data. You don't even see that data. So you can go with the times that they suggest. The other thing to note is that, again, going back to kind of old practices on Pinterest, when it was a time-based feed, a chronological feed, we would always say pin in the evening. Well, what we find now is that the time of day is not as important anymore, simply because that main home feed where people browse, it's really a combination of what you're interested in and who you follow. So if you pin something today and I follow you, I might not see it for 2 weeks because Pinterest is going to fill my feed with other things I'm interested in or other people I follow first. So that being said, time is not as important as it was previously. So I always default to choose what the scheduler sets for me, and then I'll kind of evaluate it once a month to see, well, which pins, did well, and is there a theme? Do I see that they're at a certain time? And if I do, I might adjust more of my pins to that time, but you definitely want to have a lot of data behind that decision before you move anything around.
I think it's really key to understand how these algorithms have changed over time because, yeah, now we're not tied to a specific time slot. I think that's great.
Yes.
But I've also read that people were saying that the first 5 pins are the most important. Is that
Yeah.
still hold true?
No. So when in April, Pinterest came out with their best practices guide, and they used that little phrase, and it kind of set the industry into a little bit of a frenzy. They pulled back on that. They removed it. And the intent of that was based on the follower feed. It was something that they brought back for users wanted to see just what their followers were pinning, because that's how the feed was a long time ago. So they said, well, your first 5 pins are most important and your followers will see this. Well, they've since recanted that and just said it's important that you're pinning your boards to, or you're pinning your pins to relevant boards that they match the keyword, not so much a time-based or the first 5. And it also goes back to consistency. They just want you to be consistent on the platform. So first 5 is not really a thing anymore.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
Yeah, because you feel like you're tying to that first 5. You're like, well, the first 5 is very important, but not really anymore. So I think that's
No.
great.
Yeah.
And how do we know what we're doing are getting return on investment?
Okay, so we've done a lot of investigating about this over the last year, which has been fun. So one of the things you want to be looking at is what are the ways that your business makes money, and that can be how much is a lead to you, or how much is your services, and then you want to back up and you want to look at, okay, how much traffic am I getting? Am I getting from Pinterest, and how many of these Pinterest users are converting to leads or converting the way that I want them to convert. So for someone like a content creator who's just driven on ads and affiliate income, they might take their overall ads and affiliate income and divide that by the number of Pinterest-led sessions. That will get them roughly around a range of what they're looking at, we calculated at about 2 cents a session. So then they'll look at that 2 cents a session, they'll times it by that number, and they'll kind of get their general ROI. But for everybody else, it's not that quite cut and dry. So you have to be thinking, what are the KPIs or key performance indicators in your business that help you know if something is successful or not? And for each person, calculating that ROI is different. For you, it might be if you get 2 new leads from Pinterest that make you $5,000. Well, then all this time that you're spending has had a great ROI because you got these 2 particular leads. So that being said, it takes a person sitting down and asking themselves, what is their goal? What are their goals? And how much effort am I going to put into Pinterest to achieve those goals?
Again, it comes back to the intention of why you want to be on this particular platform. And
Yes.
so I think you hit the nail on the head. How can we leverage Pinterest to drive more traffic to our websites?
So I would say it's going to be number one is going to be the images. If you have trouble with images, so we worked with some interior designers in the past and they had a hard time getting really good images of their designs. Hire a local photographer, find somebody on Craigslist to take your images for you that are more branded or they're more, they showcase your work very effectively. In fact, this is something we're doing in my business this year is we hired a photographer every 4 months to take new pictures, new things of our products. We would have them printed so we can have them photographed, or any new stock photography we needed was all very branded. And it wasn't as much as we thought. Like I had this image of it's going to be thousands and thousands of dollars, and it wasn't, especially if you're getting somebody local who needs the work and is really good at their craft. So I would say that's going to be one. And then continuing to pin daily, I would say go with 5 pins a day. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to be like 30 or 40. Just do 5 pins a day of your content. Use the scheduler and then use those strategic keywords that your person is going to be searching. If you're really hitting on those 3 in the beginning, that's really all I would want you to do. Don't take on anything else. Don't read anything else. Just head down, really focus on getting those elements up and running. And then a month later, even 6 weeks later, go into your analytics. And there's a couple different places you can look for this. You can look in Google Analytics, and that's where we usually go first. What kind of traffic is coming to my website from Pinterest? Even in Google Analytics, you can drill down to see the pins that are driving the most traffic. So click on those, examine, what are the people clicking on? Maybe I can create more blog posts around this or more images for that particular post. And then you can look at, if you use a scheduling service, they often have analytics in there as well to evaluate which of your boards are doing well, which ones are getting the most engagement. Maybe your like kitchen staging board is just killing it. Well, then that tells you my pinners really like kitchen staging. They might be interested in me creating more content. And then we look at Pinterest Analytics, which Pinterest Analytics doesn't always line up with Google Analytics, which is why we have to take kind of all 3 into account. And sitting down and looking at your analytics, it can just take an hour. It doesn't have to take that long, and just doing it once a month. And when you're looking at Pinterest Analytics, you're really looking at what are the pins that are getting the most saves, and what do my impressions look like? What do my clicks look like from Pinterest? And then you kind of gather that all together and go, wow, my people really do love my kitchen board and my kitchen pins. Okay, let's talk more about how to stage your kitchen for the sale of your home.
What are some of the important metrics we need to look at when we look at analytics?
So really, I would say when you're looking at Google Analytics, you're going to look at clicks. That's number one right there. When you're looking at Pinterest Analytics, that I always say take with a grain of salt, simply because they don't line up well. But you want to look at what people are saving and if they're also clicking on it. So you can see in the list in Pinterest Analytics when you get a business account, you can dive in to see what it is people are saving and are they actually also clicking on it. If it's other people's stuff too as well, you can see that in Pinterest Analytics. Take a look at what those things are. Why are people saving this other particular piece of content that's not mine? Maybe I can create something similar and I can put it on Pinterest as well and get more people to click on my content. So it's really just taking notes. It's very high level. I wouldn't go too much into the weeds of it all, but just enjoy the part of marketing that looks at data. I'm not a big, huge data nerd, but I do like trying to find patterns. So look for patterns in your data and your analytics and what you see stand out to you.
I think patterns is really important, and also to see what your audience wants. Like ultimately anything we do in terms of marketing is to feed into what our audience wants. What I don't like about Pinterest analytics is that I feel like a lot of it is vanity metrics. For example, our Stage More account has almost 400,000 monthly viewers, but I see the website traffic probably like 3,000 clicks, 4,000 clicks. So it actually doesn't really mean a whole lot, but I don't feel like it's really delivering any super important information. And I'm glad that you brought up Google Analytics, because I think ultimately Google Analytics is an amazing tool. It's free. And the amount of free information it gives you, it's pretty amazing. So what do you do when you see your traffic on Pinterest drops?
Such a good question. We actually just recorded a podcast about this because we got that question so often. One of the things we do is we look at the whole of Google Analytics. So we look at the year. When is there a traffic pattern? Obviously, if you haven't been investing in the platform for a year, you can't look at that. So you're going to see drops for the first 6 months. Like they're just going to be part of, it's kind of like this draw a line of up, down, up, down, up, down. Just ride that wave for a while. But let's say you have been on for a year and you see your traffic drop. There's a few things that we do to investigate. We look at sometimes your account can get marked as spam accidentally. We've seen this happen. You can just email Pinterest and say, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was only pinning 5 pins a day. Can you reinstate my account? And that will probably take a couple of days and then they'll reinstate it. This is super rare, but it is the first thing that we look for when traffic drops. The second thing we look for is if a pin that had been bringing a bunch of traffic over time suddenly kind of falls out of search. We have seen this happen before where it's a viral pin, if you will, and it will stay high in search and then all of a sudden something else will bump it out. It's very similar to Google, that if you ranked high in Google and then all of a sudden a ton of new content that was related to yours kind of outranks yours because people stopped clicking on your content, the same idea we can see happens on Pinterest. So in that case, what you're going to want to do is try to restart that pin. So maybe pin it again to a couple different boards to see if it starts to get more traffic. Or you can even share that particular pin link with your audience to say, hey, save this for later. And that could do a little bit more to increase traffic again. The other thing you can do is you can create more images for some posts that are already bringing pretty good traffic to try to diversify the traffic. And if that still doesn't work, try changing up your keywords a little bit and see if you can target new searches.
So what are some of the things that you're looking at when you're doing an audit for your client?
So one of the things we're looking at is the overall business profile. Does the business profile really communicate the message? And then we're looking at pinning habits. What have been the habits of the person who's pinning? Have they taken a break for a long time? Are they pinning stuff that matches up with what people are searching? Or are they doing like what you said in the beginning and going super broad with like recipes and there's no target? And then we're also looking at their images. Are their images clear? Are they easy to read? Are they really engaging the pinner, or are they really lackluster? Are they just regular stock photos with no text on them? And then looking at the keywords. Are people utilizing the best Pinterest descriptions to drive traffic to connect with that search traffic to get more clicks to their site? And then we also want to take into consideration what their investment has been over the long haul. Have they been on Pinterest for like 6 or 7 years and maybe they have a ton of followers, but their business has totally changed? Have they rebranded? There's a lot of questions you can ask to investigate what's happening on an account so that you can really try to get liftoff again for that particular account.
What is the number one tip you'll give to home stagers when it comes to using Pinterest for their business?
I would say the number one tip is get as many fantastic vertical photos of your work, because that's going to be the best way for me to see an inside view into what you're doing and then potentially click on your business and hire you. And make sure that in the keyword description, the pin description, you have the location of where you operate. Those two things I think are probably the most powerful things that home stagers could do. And if you want to try to connect with people on a broader level, write blog posts, write content. They don't have to be super long, but really helping them with tips and things to get them potentially on your email list or just to build awareness of your brand overall.
That's great. I love that. So thank you so much for being on the show. So that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't left a review on iTunes, please do so. It will really help others to find our show. If you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, you can comment on the show notes. You can find our show notes by going to stagemore.com/podcast. And that's it. Have a fantastic week and happy staging.